Chris, thanks so much for joining us here today on the Warehouse Visionaries podcast with OneTrack. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's my pleasure, Mark. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Well, I'm really excited about today's conversation. So my name is Marc Gyöngyösi. I'm the CEO and founder of OneTrack. And I've been building this business since 2017, learning a lot about logistics and supply chain and 3PLs along the way. And today I'm joined by Chris Kane, who maybe, Chris, you want to do a quick introduction of who you are and what your experience is and how it dwarfs my 8 years of experience in 3PL?
Sure. So I had a successful long career as a 3PL. Mark, we started a family business in 1930 and virtually a one-truck operation, started the warehousing business in 1955. I was a part of a third-generation business, and we took it from a local then regional, then national. Ultimately, it's now part of an international company, ID Logistics, who was done fantastic things, with the business. And so it was a great run. Once they say, smell the diesel fuel or you get exposed to this business, you can never leave it. So I was looking for something to do. I still have a lot of contact with 3PLs around the country. And we felt that there was a little niche for a boutique firm that we established, and it's resource exchange. So what we do, my son and I, through AI, and has put together a platform that we're gathering resources for all the vital areas of their business. And certainly emerging technologies is one of the drivers in what we're trying to put a focus on, and hence us getting together today. I think we can have a great conversation because you guys are out ahead of the pack on that, and I think a dialogue that we can share with 3PLs would be valuable.
We'll be talking a lot about AI. It's exciting to hear that you're using it now as well for 3PL RX. But before we jump into the exciting AI agents and the future side of it, I'd be really curious, if you go back to early days of the family business and you look at technology over all those years, what has happened if you think back? What has changed?
It blows my mind. And when I started the business, we're on the floors with clipboards. So, they had paperwork on clipboards and they were out coaching and assisting. And then data started to become, important and valuable, which unfortunately brought a lot of the supervisors into the offices, before mobile technology. So they were in their offices managing data and not as much time on the floor. Now, anyone will tell you as a 3PL, if you're connected with the teammates on the floor, that's great for safety, that's great for productivity, and more importantly, great for culture. And culture is a big part of what separates 3PLs. So I look at the operations now, and it's just phenomenal what's coming, and we're just at the beginning of it. So it's exciting. It's I'm happy to be part of it.
Really interesting that you mentioned culture. I've heard this a few times now. At 3PLs, it's such a people-centered business, right? People are the core of what you do for your clients, for your customers, to make them successful. What does culture mean in a 3PL?
Well, it separates us. Everybody can grab a building, everyone can buy technology, but it still comes back to people operating both the technology and the equipment in the building. And we've always put an emphasis on our associates, and I think the great 3PLs do that as well. So what good 3PLs look today to do is to take this technology to assist their associates on the floor and make the quality of their jobs better. And I think, what's going on today is really exciting. I look at a warehouse associate years ago just drove a forklift or, came in overalls. Now they're operating, sophisticated technology, and they like the job. So the jobs now are more appealing, when they're going for an hourly position. So it's exciting. And I think you guys see it firsthand with your applications.
Oh, we see it all the time. And it's so interesting as you think about the introduction of technology over the years. While it streamlines operations on the one hand, it might also introduce a lot of complexity and then change management that you need to do. And then a whole set of data that now you need people to understand what does this data mean and how do I leverage it. And I think that's where, if we talk about AI today and the ability to automate some of the analysis and engineering work, that's where we get really excited. And our customers are also getting really excited because it allows them to go back from having to spend hours in a dashboard or on a screen or some Excel report that you're building to analyze your labor or capacity or forecasting, to just let's have your team on the floor, work with the people, empower them to make the right decisions and build that culture, which is going back to the original point. That's the one thing that really hasn't changed, right? In logistics. It's about culture and the people in the building. So obviously there's a lot going on in the world right now, a lot of pressures on the world of logistics as a whole. I think that's been true for a really long time. There's always been a lot of pressure on logistics. But have you ever experienced anything like right now?
No, I don't think. I think the uncertainty right now with the economy and the country has our customers in a pause or hesitation mode. And I think what we're seeing is it's unprecedented times ahead, which is when there's uncertainty, there's cautiousness. And I think what we need to do is how can we take this technology and cost justify it and deliver the value that, when we're looking at, a technology spend, AI isn't always resonating right to the top, but, you always want to get the low hanging fruit.
Yeah, I think because of these external pressures and then the advent of this technology, which only recently has really become feasible, there has never been a point in time like this where you have that combination going on at the same time. I think in the past, technology always came in as something that tried to incrementally change something. But AI is not an incremental change. AI is a change in how work works and how work gets done. And when you combine that with, if you're a 3PL and you're looking at cost and you're looking at your margins and you see, your customers might have to change their business models as a result of some of the external pressures like tariffs, etc. There's nothing better out in the world than AI to address that, because you can get more work done with the same number of people. And not just more work, like 10%, 20% more work. We're talking about taking your best employee, all that knowledge that they have, and scaling them across your entire organization without having to hire 10 more, 20 more, 50 more, 100 more of that person. And the incremental returns of each of those copies of the employee across your organization, be that efficiency in an internal
continuous
improvement process, or just bureaucracy where it takes a person an hour or two a day or a week to do some task, now gets done instantly and effortlessly. It changes how you think about your business and you think about the cost structure of your business. And that's a key thing that I think people are starting to realize, but we're still very early. Whoever figures this out first at scale in 3PL, no matter if they're tiny or massive today, is going to crush everyone else. Because it's no longer a function of how big you are today to determine how big you can be in the future. And you're not growing linearly by adding linearly more people. You can grow exponentially without having to add all those people to do so. And that's a really unique point in time that we're at today because of the technology and because of the pressures. The important piece is it has to work and it has to be real. It has to have accurate data. And so as you embrace on that journey, make sure that you understand what data any kind of AI system is working with and what problems it's solving, and that those are meaningful problems, right? Problems that you can quantify. How much time am I spending on this today versus if I could do this automatically at scale? How much time is it going to save me for that?
And typically when 3PLs are buying technology, it's a major change to their operation. And if it doesn't go well, it doesn't end well. So there's really, what should be the hesitation for a small to mid-sized 3PL to pull the trigger and say, let me take a look at this. AI could be the answer. I can't add headcount. I need to reduce my incidences and safety. I need to increase, my productivity on picking. I think what would be the hesitation, or what do you see?
I don't see any reason why anyone should hesitate. You need to jump into it head first. And it's not just about OneTrack in your building, managing visibility and trying to show you the things that you need to address. It's start small. I mean, every single person in your company should be using GPT or some version like that for their day-to-day work. Those develops a knowledge and a skill within a company that's going to be key in the future. In the future, people, no matter which industry, we're very focused on logistics and warehousing, but every industry, every company, work is going to be very different in the future than it is today. There's a billion, I think there's a quote from Jensen Wang, like there's a billion knowledge workers in the world today. There will be 10 billion, I would say 50 billion, 100 billion. There's nothing holding us back except the cost of energy to make that a reality. Knowledge workers in the world, right? And so if you're, no matter which company or industry you're in, if you're not embracing this, what are you doing?
Right.
You have to.
Yeah.
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah.
It will be second nature to everyone to be interacting with AI every single day as part of your work. Because if you don't, you spend a lot of time doing things you don't want to do. And if you do, your life is much more streamlined and you can focus on the people, which is the most important thing as we talk about culture.
Right. And 3PLs, Mark, always struggle that are we managing the right data?
Yeah.
And I think that the products that you have and the technology out there today, that takes that away. So, I mean, data is always going to be the driver in the operations. And you know, if you can streamline that and that the 3PLs know that, hey, we're focusing on the key areas of data. I mean, they're not overwhelmed with data. They're focused on the key areas. And as you know, safety, productivity, all the key components. You know, it's fantastic that AI can do that today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a really important point because today as a consumer, when we think about AI, the first thing we think about is that ChatGPT, Grok, Meta has their assistant that they built into your Messenger app. I don't think those are not really the kinds of use cases that really get me excited from an enterprise side of it. And so it takes some time for people to really make the connection between what does it mean for there to be one of these AIs or large language models that can understand some input and not just respond to me in a text box, but actually take actions. So I think you have to understand what the impact of this is going to be. Think about it like putting work on a schedule without having to do the work. So it's not necessarily about, you know, the term agent is overused all the time, but when you hire a really, really smart person, what do? You sit them down, you explain to them the context of your business, you explain to them the data they might need to look at, how to analyze the data, and then certain goals and objectives. Once a month, we want to make sure that we have the right headcount in the building, that we're looking at the order forecast, and we can adjust our hiring needs based on that. Maybe once a quarter, we want to assess our fleet, and we want to look at the utilization of that fleet over time. So you're thinking about the tasks or the analysis or the things that need to happen, the work that needs to happen, and you describe it to the system. And the amazing thing is you just do it in plain English. In the past, to do those kinds of tasks, you would need engineers.
Yeah.
You would need hundreds of engineers to do that at scale for some of these large logistics players, right? And they never have them.
Mm-hmm.
Even the largest ones, I mean, their engineering teams are maybe 50 to 100 people
Mm-hmm.
if for maybe the US. And so with this AI component now, you basically describe the work that should happen. You give the AI access to your data and the ability to take actions. And when you combine that with a system like OneTrack that actually gives you the accurate data about what happens in the warehouse and the ability to interface and work with your team, in a way, you're turning your warehouse or your operation or your business, you're turning that into kind of like I don't want to use the word person, but a thing you can talk and work with.
Right.
You're talking to your warehouse.
A digital
person.
Right.
That completely changes the game because the resources you usually need the most, your engineers, your continuous improvement analysts that you're sending around the country to do time studies and optimizations and things like that, they can't tackle all the work that's out there. But now with this technology, you can. And you can do that at an unprecedented scale that never existed before and at a fraction of the cost compared to hiring people to do all that work. It's not replacing the work that's being done today. It's more so doing the work that you never had time for to do. And that's the thing that's really, really exciting.
And that's a game changer.
It's a game changer. Yeah. And it lowers the barrier to entry in so many ways that people are not thinking about.
There's 3PLs doing it. So if you're sitting on the sidelines, and I know a lot of our members are smaller and a little more cautious. I read a quote that if you're not, engaging in technology today and your competitors are, you're not going to be here tomorrow. It's that changing that fast.
Especially if you're one of the smaller players right now, what a time to be alive. And the reason for that is you now have the ability to compete at scale with all these large players because basically the cost of intelligence is going towards the cost of energy using these models. And you can scale that across your operations in a way that you were never able to do before. And actually, as a smaller player, your advantage is agility. If you're a smaller team, you have control over your business. You know all the people, you know your processes, you know your customers. You can make a decision and it just happens.
Right.
And That's an incredible opportunity for businesses like that. On the flip side, if you're a larger player and you have this opportunity, the same opportunity exists for you, but you got to act on it. The ones who embrace this technology are going to pass by everyone at a speed and pace that nobody ever thought possible.
Now, I recently came back from ProMat and I saw a floor of automation. But I thought, well, what about like digital automation? What about, everybody thinks of automating, the physical part of a distribution center. You guys are looking at the digital part from.
Absolutely. One of the angles on this that I find really interesting is you think about automation in warehouses and everyone's mind immediately goes to robots. Robots have been around for a really long time. Yep. I used to work at BMW in the robotics group. We were working on collaborative robots for manufacturing. So the idea was there's a robot working alongside a person and basically assisting some of the mechanical manufacturing tasks, like attaching some insulation or something like that. And they had autonomous forklifts driving around in that factory, and those forklifts had been there for longer than I'm alive. They were just moving pallets from one location to the other. It's been there for a really long time. It's a very normal part of how they operate. But then on the flip side, while we were working on these robots, every once in a while, a pallet was missing in the raw material storage. And I kid you not, they sent me with binoculars and a notebook trying to find, here's the serial number of this item. Let's go find it. Yeah. I'm like, how does this happen? Right? You've got autonomous forklifts driving around. You have people moving forklifts way faster, by the way, than the autonomous forklifts. And then you're optimizing for sub-second accuracy on the manufacturing process, but you don't know where the windshields are.
Yeah.
And that's a high-end automotive manufacturing environment.
Right. Robotics certainly have their place. And, with the 3PLs that I work with, what they look at robotics is to take away the undesirable jobs for their hourly associates. So whether it's a floor load of, 5,000 boxes that, manually have to be palletized, perfect application for robotics. But, you can't run an entire distribution center with robotics, and people are always, so the best applications that we see, as you mentioned, are when you've got humans and robots working side by side.
And understanding where the robot is useful and where it is not.
Right.
But also understanding what levers you truly have available from a technology perspective. Because I think there's certainly a shiny object syndrome that's going around the industry right now. You walk to ProMat and there's 1,000 different vendors that will give you all kinds of robots in every shape and size that you imagine. But just this week, I was in a warehouse, and in that warehouse, they had everything from toilet paper to peanut butter and Pringles, and then there was some poultry, and there were like cold storage. There were bananas in a separate area. And you try to think about, okay, so if you wanted to automate all this with a robot, that robot wouldn't have to make a lot of different decisions and be able to handle a lot of different types of packaging and product and weights and combinations of things. And at the end of the day, well, actually, they're building orders that are mixing all those things together onto pallets. Like, how do you even do that mechanically from a robotic side of it? And so to me, it's always so interesting how everyone's mind immediately goes to the robotic side, and people sort of miss that low-hanging fruit of, if I just understood the data better, and actually, let's take a step back from that. If I just understood my operations better and understood why things don't go the way they're supposed to do, I could tackle those problems first before even having to make millions of dollars in investment to buy some expensive hardware that maybe 3 years, 5 years from now won't even work anymore. When you think about what does effortless operations for a warehouse mean in the future, it means that the things that need to happen in the background just happen, and you can focus on your people. And if you can take all the documentation work around making sure that employees are trained correctly, they have their 60-day, 30-day reviews, 60-day reviews, 90-day reviews, making sure that your zoning for your case picks are set up correctly, making sure that your equipment fleet is correct, making sure you have the right headcount in a building, that you're coaching the right people up and giving them recognition for their work. Operations changes. You don't have to worry about finding the information anymore. You can just act on it. And you get so much faster at it. And that's where the competitive advantage comes from embracing this technology, is you can operate faster, safer, and with much less effort than.
So we began all of our shifts with safety.
Safety is key, number one.
So talk to us about how AI and safety integrate together.
Oh, there's some really, really exciting examples. So think about, if you work in a warehouse, and unfortunately every once in a while there are some safety incidents that might happen. And with a solution like OneTrack, we will flag, hey, Mark was driving the forklift and had the phone out while driving. Or actually, Mark was driving and the hands were outside the compartment, or not looking in the direction of travel. Those are sort of point in time incidents that OneTrack will detect, and then a supervisor has to coach one by one by one. The problem is when you start that shift, do you really have the context of all your employees' performance over time? And do you know what the most important thing is to talk about at that pre-shift meeting?
No.
No.
Right.
And the reason for that is you don't have time to analyze all the data. So that's where you bring in some of the agentic side of this, the AI agents, where your pre-shift briefing is no longer dependent on did the supervisor have time or the manager have time to run the data. It's right there in your inbox 5 minutes before your pre-shift briefing. These are the 3 topics to talk about based on everything that happened on this shift over the past few months.
Fantastic.
And maybe there's an opportunity to even recognize an employee. Hey, Mark, you had, there was a severe incident 2 months ago, but since then you've had 0 incidents. Let's recognize that as a positive kudos to that employee.
Right.
So that's
positive reinforcement.
Positive reinforcement is so key.
Yeah.
But then on the positive reinforcement side, I think the other component to this is not just the employee on the forklift who's doing maybe the work on the forklift, but the supervisors and the managers. Do you have time to recognize every supervisor and every manager who's doing a great job? Usually not.
No.
Because you're just focused on what's loudest and the biggest fire that's burning.
Right.
And so this gives you that time. Think about this AI really as a tool to get time back to focus on those things and redirect resources from doing busy work to doing important work.
And I think 3PLs are always cautious of, well, what are my systems going to be able to integrate with this? What is the implementation of it? Is what's involved in that? Can you share some experiences on that?
It's getting easier by the day.
Okay.
And that's the exciting piece. We have customers where we're getting data from AS400 systems. When I first heard that term,
well, yep.
When I first heard that term, I had to look up what it is. I didn't at the time. I didn't know. It's like, oh, okay, green screens.
Well, we had one, and we had a separate room for it that was air conditioned. And I hear now that my phone has enough power that AS400 ran. So I mean, it's but I know that the beast, we called it.
The key is to make sure that the data is accurate. And that's, I think, where the biggest gap sometimes exists today. If you have a WMS, even if it's an AS400 system, let's make sure it's capturing all the transactions. Let's make sure it's properly capturing the start and end locations, making sure you know which user is actually completing those transactions. Those are some of the things you want to have in place, but you don't really have to go in and implement some state-of-the-art new WMS. I actually think WMS over time is going to change quite significantly because today, the WMS that are out there, it takes so much time and effort to implement them. Years, millions of dollars, so much change management. And operations should just be effortless. You should just start working and moving product and not have to worry about what version of high top tier WMS am I on right now. So I think there's a future where that part changes too. But to go back to your question, what can I do today and what do I need to think about for data and the integration? Just make sure that you have access to the data. And that's really all it takes. Because if a human can understand it, that's the beauty of AI. Mm-hmm. The AI can understand it too.
Yeah. And you have real case examples. You're now implementing it in 3PLs around the country.
Oh, yeah. So I started the business back in 2017. And we had the first commercial deployments of customer late 2018, early 2019 of the OneTrack system. And since then, we're now in a couple hundred warehouses in North America between the US and Canada. And there are thousands of sensors that are keeping tens of thousands of people safe and productive every single day. The key thing now that has happened really over the last 6 months is this implementation of the AI part that automates the busy work. And that has taken off like nothing I have ever seen before. I've spent definitely not as much time as you in the world of 3PL and logistics, but I've spent a good amount of time in warehouses. I obviously saw all the most advanced automation technology and all the automotive manufacturing environments and things like that. And there's nothing that has this potential for logistics. And step by step, we're seeing customers recognize that as well. Where our approach today is our team creates a lot of the, what you might call agents or AI workflows that need to run. So the examples from earlier, your weekly labor analysis or monthly fleet analysis. Those are things that are in production today. Our customers are talking to the warehouses at scale. Thousands of those are out there. between employee coaching, supervisor coaching, 30 days, 60, 90-day reviews. All the different case pick analysis is a really interesting one. Just identifying when people are jumping between aisles. It would require a CI analyst engineer to run a daily report, parse through the data, run some VBA macros or something in a spreadsheet to pull that out. It's just automated now.
Wow.
A engineer, here's a location to look at or a zone to look at based on what happened yesterday. So these things are live right now. We had one of our customers on a recent webinar, CJ Logistics, and for them, one of the really interesting things is obviously all the tactical automations, but another area that's really exciting for them is rolling out OneTrack as their labor management system. So they used to have one of the other labor management systems out there, and now to use OneTrack where you get the video data about coaching the employees and actually see what happened during that long case pick transaction. But the challenge is when you roll something new out, when you roll out a new program, what do you need? Engineering, training, hyper-focus, on-site, all of that. AI agents changes that completely. They can take all the sites live all at once and do all the hand-holding needed to do all the change management without having to be in the loop on every single site themselves.
So you can not roll out a site by site. You can roll out a customer.
You can roll out a customer.
A 3PL.
A 3PL.
Wow.
And the crazy thing is that going back to the competitive advantage now, if you embrace this technology, this is not just for labor management.
Right.
Any change management, any program or technology that you're implementing, why do you need people to ensure everything is configured correctly? And providing that feedback to the general manager. As a general manager, I would much rather get real-time feedback from an AI in my inbox and address it right away than hear about it on some weekly or monthly review call where I get called out for not having hit the metric correctly.
It's too late then. Yeah.
And it's the small things, right? Getting these small things right and creating these small wins also gets really important, the buy-in from the operations. That's just some of the examples. I could go on for hours.
No, and I wonder how the AI agents actually work. And I mean, that was just a great example.
Yeah.
And we talked about buy-in, feeling on the floor that from the associates, the team members, they're receptive. I mean, they don't see any threats or they like working with the technology.
They embrace it.
Great.
Because it's finally real time.
Yeah.
You move away from something that's a daily or a weekly report to actually, I can address an opportunity for my process before lunch. And I get those next 4 hours to prove myself back.
Right.
And it definitely requires the buy-in from the entire company, top to bottom, bottom to top, to embrace that. But the value of this real-time feedback loop is so significant. When we all play games on our phones or consoles, we don't want to play for 8 hours and then only find out our score at the next day. That's not a...
No.
I don't know what I'm doing well or not, if that's the reality. But if I can get a real-time ping, hey, here's an issue in your case pick performance right now, or your put away or your loading performance, you have the next 5 hours to catch back up to it. Oh, I'll do that 100 times of the day.
So what's the feedback that your customer is getting from their customer?
Oh, it's a competitive advantage. If you want to win business as a 3PL, you don't have a choice. You have to embrace technology. Everyone is looking for that because everyone understands that that's where the world is headed. And in the past, technology would be expensive, but now it's not anymore. You can implement at scale at unprecedented efficiency. That's where the equation changed.
And do you see the 3PLs in their business reviews with their customers sharing the data that AI has brought them and the improvements in the operations?
One step further, we have customers that use AI to generate the data and insights and information that they then share to their customers in their business reviews.
Wow.
What's my productivity? What's my safety performance? What are things that we're addressing in the building? What are the projects going on right now? We don't want to get too far into the technical details, but these AI systems can talk to each other and they build a knowledge of your entire company and your business. They build knowledge about your customer and their order profiles and the products that they're shipping to you and the people working on those products and those orders. They build knowledge about how those orders are coming in, how their timing, and whether or not you're able to handle them right away or if you're behind or not and why that might be the case. So if you can bring that kind of visibility to your customer without having to hire a massive engineering team to get that information, Just imagine what that could do for your business and for your relationship with the client.
Yeah, and 3PLs, Mark, our product mix changes more than anyone. You know, you take a distribution center for a manufacturer, they're dealing with the same things. As a 3PL, we're dealing with a lot of buildings, multiple customers in the building. The most successful, 3PLs have large shared buildings. So you've got a variety of different product mixes. And that's where, AI, I think, really can step in and manage that.
It almost removes one of those barriers to entry that exist today.
Right.
Because if you think about the 3PLs out there, you have the multinational conglomerates that are all over the world with all the fancy technology you can imagine, spending hundreds of millions of dollars on different kinds of automation technology. But at the same time, the other 95% of the market are companies that might have 5, 10, 20 warehouses somewhere in that range. And then they can't really make an investment of hundreds of millions of dollars in automation equipment on their customer's contract. If they're doing dedicated logistics, maybe it's 3 years, maybe it's 5 years.
It's always been the struggle for 3PL.
Exactly. But then you walk into a building with multi-client and you have 80, 90, 100 customers in there, and they are month to month.
Right.
When I first found out about that, I was like, how do you have a warehouse where between those hundreds of customers, they are changing every month?
Yeah.
That just creates a lot of complexity. How has that changed from a business model side over the years?
Well, fortunately, as real estate became tighter, 3PLs were able to work with their customers to negotiate longer contracts. A lot of times, a 3PL will go in and run a distribution center, and the customer actually holds the lease on the building. So that gives the customer the ability to replace the 3PL, and then they could sign long-term on a building, get the best cost basis as they need on it. So you saw that changes, but 3PLs always struggled. We had so many opportunities that we would lose business to a large global provider because they sold the technology. And I would have the customer tell us, I know you guys will do a better execution. You guys have been there for us, but technology is now the buzzword. And that started 20 years ago, but now I look at the products out there, especially with OneTrack, and I said, this is leveling the playing field for the small to mid-size, the space that we operated in. We always looked, Mark, if the more connected we could be with our customers, the harder it was to replace us. If someone came in and went after the business. And I think this technology is a game changer for that as well, because getting the end customer connected and all this, that they see firsthand all the benefits of it, just makes them more comfortable with the 3PL provider that they have and they're utilizing.
The role of the 3PL is changing.
Yeah.
As a result of this, I think there's a future where 3PLs will be managing thousands, tens of thousands, millions of agents for their customers to manage their supply chain. Imagine if you're manufacturer of a consumer packaged good, and that box of whatever it is, cereal or chips or something, you as a 3PL could provide the visibility and the tracking and the assurance that that box from the factory makes it to the end customer exactly the way that you want. And if there's any issue with it, there's an agent that's handling it for you. And you as a 3PL can provide that to your customer if you embrace this technology today.
So that gets into the whole product, integrity and,
quality,
tampering, and some of the issues that could happen that, if you have seamless visibility through the supply chain, that's a game changer as well.
Yeah. One recent example that came to mind, we were on site in a distribution center and I saw a pallet of product that one of our customers makes. And we happened to be installed in their factory, in all their distribution centers. And now we were talking to one of their downstream customers. And walking through this building, there's this big pallet. And I was like, oh, I'm curious if I type in that license plate number, if I can find it. Like, go type in the LPN. Boom. There's a picture in the video of this pallet getting loaded on a trailer at a distribution center in California before it got to this other distribution center in Nevada.
Wow.
And we also have a picture of it coming up the production line in somewhere in North Carolina. And that was mind-blowing.
Yeah, that's
something but it creates a lot of data. And if you just rely on people to look at all the data, you will never be able to harness all the value from it.
Right.
So you got to start with the data capture. Then you bring in the technology to automate the analysis. And then you tie all that together so your people can execute for your customer. And that's the key. Yeah. That's the golden triangle.
Yeah. And that's a simplified way to lay that out, that, end-to-end visibility. And
Oh yeah.
yeah.
So as you think about 3PL RX and what you're bringing to your customers, what's important to you? What are you hoping to do? Why are you doing this?
3PLs are busy operating their businesses, especially the e-commerce, e-fulfillment. The growth rate for that business is 20-25% per year. So they're shipping boxes. And, there's regulatory and compliance issues that we're able to, pull through AI and get them that timely. So there's not any issues there. But really, as I started this, that emerging technologies is a big part of what we're doing. And be able to take this format and share the information for them that they normally wouldn't, so they can keep up with the big guys and keep up with the times. So it's been very well received. We're doing a lot of internal work building our databases, but the key to the value that we offer is just an exchange platform, just to get this information to them in all the areas, and safety, productivity, real estate, all the key points that we talked about. 3PLs are hesitant, especially the smaller mid-size. They never want to be the first guy out there. And when I talk to them and I say, hey, no, there's applications around here and take a look at this. That's all we're trying to do, is just help. 3PL industry was great to me and my family, and I just want to go back and help some of the up and coming companies that they can compete and grow as we did.
That's incredible. That's great to hear. I think really exciting that you're taking that to your customer base and to that network, because I think the logistics industry needs a long-term view. And today, a lot of technology has a very short-term view.
Yeah.
And I think that's where some of the hesitancy comes from. So many technology systems that promise the world,
right,
deliver
half
of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now it's ever more important to highlight that there is technology that can do magic for you.
Right.
And it is doing that at scale today. It's not a what if at some point in the future. It's now. It's right here, right this second. And so having a platform like 3PLRX to partner with on that is phenomenal and great, and really appreciate you creating that and bringing that together.
And Mark, I think if we talk 3 months from now, the changes in AI then compared to our conversations today, right? That's how fast. I just want to get across to our members how fast this is moving. And
just imagine what's going to happen 6 months from now and 12 months from now. So people don't really realize yet what's going to happen here and what's going to hit the world. But if you embrace it, like I said earlier, what a time to be alive.
And I think today, from what I heard, why not embrace it? I mean,
why not?
You've got to do it. Yeah.
You got to do it. And it's not like you have to spend millions of dollars to buy expensive hardware and set up your own server infrastructure or anything like that. The AI companies already did all the hard work for you. They spent hundreds of billions of dollars on infrastructure to create this technology. And now it's upon you to execute with it.
Yeah, and levels the playing field for the small to mid-sized 3PLs. And that's our base. So I'm excited.
So you mentioned that you want to bring information about this technology and the solutions that are out there to the 3PL world. How can they find you if they're interested?
Well, first is our website, 3plrx.com. And then we put out a monthly, we call it a spotlight, pretty much a newsletter. And then we do, webinars and starting to get into podcast. But right now we're building our database of we've got over 1,000 3PLs that we're sharing. And that's growing as we add the e-commerce, e-fulfillment companies. And then we're also building a database of suppliers to the 3PL. So this fits right in with this, and it's been a great opportunity for us.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. And let's do it again in the future.
Absolutely.
Because I know there'll be more to come.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark.